What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Corporate Bartender. I'm not sure it matters who you are right now, but I'll say it. Times are complicated. When things get complicated, we can feel like we're out of control. Ever feel that way? If you have, you're in luck. We've got Shannon Cassidy on the program today. She's going to help us take back some control and explain why generosity and gratitude is the secret sauce to pretty much everything. Shannon is an author, executive coach, team facilitator, keynote speaker, and the host of the Return on Generosity podcast. She's written 4 books, and we're going to touch all of them. There are frameworks galore. We're going to talk about a control model, how to not make a left turn into rumination, about headlight and taillight people and what it means to vibe. You know what I'm going to say. This conversation was a banger, and I think you're going to dig it. So buckle up, TCBers, grab your favorite cocktail, and let's get right on into it with Shannon Cassidy on today's TCB.
Welcome to Sky Team's The Corporate Bartender, where we gather some of the best HR and people leaders to discuss what's happening on the people side of business. Now pull up a stool, belly up to the bar, and join us for The Corporate Bartender.
Welcome, everybody. It's Wednesday. You know what that means. It's your favorite day and mine. It's Corporate Bartender Day. It is the 8th of January, 2025. It's almost Christmas again, right, Ruby?
No, it's not.
This is the 213th time that we have convened this group of really awesome people. As I like to say, today's going to be a fun one. We've got a guest. Her name is Shannon Cassidy, and her list of accomplishments is long. She is the founder and CEO of A Bridge Between Incorporated, a boutique leadership development firm specializing in behavioral change, executive presence. I want to know what that is, Shannon. I'm going to ask that question. Effective communication and all the requisite leadership stuff. She's written books, a bunch of them. You see them there on your screen. She is the author of Discover Your Inner Strength, The 5-Degree Principle, How Small Changes Lead to Big Results. V.I.B.E, V-I-B-E, that is an acronym, a self-discovery journey to authentic leadership, and Grounded in Gratitude, a 1-line-a-day, 5-year gratitude journal. And there's even more. She's got assessments. She's got frameworks. She's pretty impressive. So we're going to get to know a little bit about her today and talk to her about these frameworks, about these ideas. She's also the host of a podcast called Return on Generosity, which is right in the wheelhouse of the bartender's philosophy. So we're going to learn all about that. We did not warn her, but Shannon, we like to dance people on. So let's give Shannon a warm TCB welcome, shall we?
All right.
Yeah, see?
There you go.
I leave the music going until the hands get in the air. Oh, she's going with the lasso. She had her hands in the air, so I'm presuming she just doesn't care.
That's exactly right.
Well, Shannon, thanks for being with us here today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me. I've been so excited about this.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. Well, we always like to start with a little bit of an origin story. We want to know kind of how you got to the place that you are today, how you find yourself here on this call with us today. Because I imagine when you were a wee child, this is not what you set out to be. You didn't say, you know, one day I'm going to write a bunch of books, do a couple of assessments, and be an executive coach and leadership development expert. So tell us a little bit about how it started and how it's going. A little bit about your journey.
Oh, thank you. That's so kind. I think when I was young, I wanted to own a bar restaurant.
Okay.
That was something I thought would be really cool.
I mean, that's the dream of a lot of 8-year-olds, owning a bar.
And teenagers and, 20 somethings. Because, you work in bars and restaurants and you're like, I could run this place, or this might be a good living. And then I remember I was living in Boston and a friend of mine's parents own a bar restaurant. We went there for New Year's Eve, and then we stayed over at her house. And then the next morning, her mom said, "Shannon, you're the one that wants to run a bar restaurant, right?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Come here for a second." So she takes me into her living room, and it's all, that was when like all the receipts were handwritten. And they had like chits, and like everything was stacks of receipts and piles of paper. She's like, "This is what my New Year's Day will be like, and every other Saturday and Sunday for the rest of the time that I own." And I was like, "This looks horrible." She said, "I left the restaurant at 4:30. I'll be back tonight at 4 o'clock in the afternoon." So anyway, that dream dissipated pretty quickly, and then I just knew I wanted to do something in like corporate America or business. I was very much career focused, not so much personal life focused, if that makes any sense. I never really thought of myself being a mom or a wife or anything like that. I just saw myself being a leader. And thankfully I met my husband really at my sister's wedding. So our origin story is a good one, where he was on the, and he does laugh, and it's true, he was like on the C list of her wedding because, and this is thematic for you, he was my sister's bartender. Right, at this local bar. And so they were like,
he was like the person that were like, we really should invite him because we talk to him all the time. But
all the time.
I mean, he's just the bartender.
Yeah. Right. And then they were like, "Wouldn't that be hilarious if we invited Mike Cassidy to our wedding?" And they were like, "That would be so fun." And then as people were declining, they invited him. And I said, "Mike, weren't you a little insulted that you got invited to this wedding like the week before?" And he said, "No, I don't care." It's like, okay. So anyway, we meet at the wedding, and that took off. And then I realized that I did want to be a partner to someone, and eventually I did want to, and had the blessing of being a parent. So I have two grown children, Ryan and Grace, 23 and 21. And I live in Pennsylvania. So we bounced around a bunch. I grew up in New York. I lived in Arizona, in Rhode Island, in Massachusetts, back to New York, and then back to Boston, and then to Pennsylvania. So I've been here 25 years. I'm celebrating 25 years with Bridge Between this year. Wow. So again, this wasn't really what I was like, oh, I should own a business and do this kind of thing. But when we were in Boston, I had corporate jobs, and I did enjoy them. But Mike's job moved us to Pennsylvania. So he was working for, and I'll say it, he was working for Pfizer at the time. And we were
not tending bar anymore.
No, he grew out of that. He was in hydrogeology. He was doing all these like very interesting jobs. But at that time he was in sales, pharmaceutical sales. And they offered him a promotion to either move to San Francisco or Philadelphia. So we chose Philadelphia because our family is from the Northeast. And within a month or two, they let him go.
Oh.
And I just started Bridge Between because I was like, okay, I'm going to create the solutions for the things that I wished I had when I was in corporate America. So I learned I never heard of coaching before, right? I mean,
and I'm going to do the math here because you have 21 and 23-year-old children, and this was 25 years ago. Yep. So that's an opportune time to start a family when your husband loses his job and
I didn't realize that. And then 9/11 happened. Oh! So I was pregnant with my first, and 9/11 happened. I was like, oh my gosh, this is brutal. But it really, these were all like catalysts for like the 5-degree principle for sure, which is about how you deal with change, because it really is about your mindset. Like Charles Swindoll wrote this piece years ago called Attitude. And in that, he says that life is 10% what happens to you and 90% what you do about it. Right. So it's really about your attitude. And that was an opportunity for me to practice having a good attitude.
Yeah. Well, because I feel like when everything's smooth sailing, there's really no awareness of those kinds of things. It's when shit goes sideways that you're like, oh, geez, this is a struggle. And what am I going to do about this? And how do I look for the good things? Right. Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
So true.
And Shannon, I just have to say, because Shannon and I have worked together in a kind of a sort of a project together on the side, and I never knew that our daughters have the same name. My daughter's name is Grace.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
That's amazing. It's amazing.
And
Grace.
your son is Ryan?
Yes.
My son is Brian.
Oh my gosh. And that's what everyone calls my son.
Right.
Right.
Ryan. You mean Brian? He's like, nope, I mean Ryan. Okay, Brian. Brian with a Y? Nope, Ryan with a R.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
gosh.
So
And they're about the same age.
So you've been doing this thing, this bridge between thing. What is bridge between? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, I did a little self-reflection and inventory about like, what are the things that I love to do? Because if you're going to start a business, you might as well do something that you would do anyway. Right. So I was like, a business I should never start as like an accounting company or something, because that is just not my lane.
Or processing restaurant receipts, right?
Right. Exactly. Also not on my top 10 list of things that bring me joy. But the things that do bring me joy are solving problems and listening to people to find out like what are they really saying and what is the root of this issue that they're dealing with, and what are some of the creative ways that they could bridge gaps. I mean, I genuinely think about how to bridge gaps between people or for individuals. Like, this is where I am now, but this is where I want to be. This is the kind of role I want to have or the life I want to have. So as an executive coach, it's really like, this is the kind of leader that I want to be. How do I bridge that gap from where I am to where I'm going? And I know that sounds really cliche, but that's truly how I see myself, as a bridge, because in my line of work, I'm not hired as a permanent fixture. I'm hired as a catalyst to help somebody get somewhere, and then I wish them well, and I hope I get to see them again, and maybe we work together in a different capacity in the future. But the purpose of it is to enable people to go forward. And so, and I think a big difference between coaching and, say, therapy or counseling is that very often counseling focuses on the past to help you understand, how you think and some of the things that have impacted you and the way you operate. But coaching is all about, here's where we are right now. And that's neither good nor bad. It just is. And This is where I want to go. And then what do I need? Because I have a lot of the tools that I need, but I don't have all of them. And I have some of the habits that I need, but some of the habits that I have, I need to change. So I have to figure out what that tweak is. So I really see myself as that catalyst. And one of the things that I got certified in, and I don't do as much formally as mediation, but I'm a certified mediator. And I find that very handy when I'm doing team development, because very often that's the skill set that's needed to like hear what's being said, don't dwell too much, but understand, and then try to help the other people hear it from the place where it's intended and not take it as an attack. So those are some of the ways that I'm the bridge.
I love it. I love what you said too about, I'm a catalyst. I'm here to do a thing, and then I wish you well and move on with my life. Because I know a good few keep the meter running consultants. They love to just keep the meter running forever. And you were outlining the differences between coaching and therapy. I've quit a few therapists who just wanted to keep the meter running forever. I'm like, we're not getting any better here. We're just treading around in the same waters, and it's not doing me any good. And it's certainly not doing, well, it's doing you good because you're getting paid every week. But we think about it the same way here at SkyTeam, right? We're here to do a thing. We love working with like intact teams is my favorite thing to do. And, I'll work with you over time, but when things change, right? I come in, we do a thing, right? You get better. You are a better team because of the engagement and the interaction that we had. You do a reorg, or you change your remit and you want to, do a kickoff. Great. Right. But I love watching the results happen in real time.
It's so exciting.
So exciting.
Yeah. And sometimes you wish people well and you hope you'll see them again. And sometimes you don't, but sometimes you do. Like, I just had a call earlier today with somebody who I worked with in 2013 through 2015, like on a variety of different things. She was the head of HR, and now she's the head of HR of a new company.
Yeah.
And she said, we want to do this executive leadership development. We want to do this, that. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's so wonderful, because really at that time I was still working on my own mindset, but there was a part of me that was like, did this not work well? Was there something wrong? But it was really just that we completed the project as we designed it.
Right.
Right. And I think it was just very fulfilling. It was a full circle moment for me today to just be self-reflective about how had I interpreted the ending of that in the past, back in 2015, and now getting to reconnect with her today. It felt like not a minute had passed too, which is really
That's cool. Yeah.
I love that. I mean, that's the cycle in which we work, right? I mean, all of our incoming work is referral work, right? It's people that we worked with in the past, or people that were adjacent to things that we did in the past. Ruby and I got an email just before this call from a client we worked with a few years ago, and she's moved on to a new role, and they were just kind of in their lane doing their thing. And she's like, hey, we just got a quote for this, I don't know, team session. Do you guys do that? And I'm like, oh, yes.
This is my favorite sweet spot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's the universe.
That's how it works. Yes. Thanks, universe. Exactly. And that's how it works in this industry when you do good work and put client needs first, right? I mean, Ruby always says it all the time. We work in service of them. We're grateful just to be there.
Right. Yeah. That they trust you and they are willing to open up and let you in.
I'm curious, Shannon, you kind of talk about the the journey and kind of what you wanted to build and why that, things that were missing that you saw and kind of leader you wanted to be. At what point in forming Bridge Between and kind of the work that you do, at what point did generosity become kind of your anchor, kind of your special sauce?
Oh, thanks for that. Yeah, as I've been saying, I'm very self-reflective. I believe in like pattern recognition for others and for myself. And there was a pattern that kept coming up for me around gratitude. Like I was like, if I boil this all down, it's really about gratitude or the lack thereof, right? There's another distillation that I'd like to share with your listeners before we wrap today too, that I also think is helpful. But with the gratitude bit, I think like that's such a source of joy and fulfillment. And it really, like, gratitude turns what you have into enough so that you're not always looking for more, right? Because I just feel like a lot of people are missing their life because they're always in pursuit of something else rather than just take a beat and recognize what you've got. So I wanted to create this gratitude journal that you mentioned in the intro, Grounded in Gratitude. And when I first wanted to title it, I was going to title it Growing in Gratitude. And I'm like, do you really grow in gratitude? Like, is that where you grow? And I thought, no, I kind of feel like that's like the gateway. That's the baseline. So that's why the image on the book is so critical, because it's a tree with the roots and it's like you're grounded in gratitude. And when you're grounded there, then I think you can have abundance, and that abundance often spills out into generosity. And that is where you grow. And that is where joy and fulfillment comes from. Like think about the peak moments of your life. And there's no doubt in my mind, it was when you were contributing something to someone else. And very often it's when you could not get a payback, right? It's like a stranger, or you're just doing something because you were like, this just needs to be done. And so as I focused on that, I was like, that's it. That's the thing. Like, I feel like the leaders, like I've just done a little inventory of my own, the leaders that I've worked with and for, the colleagues of mine and associates that I admire the most. And I'm like, that's the attribute or the characteristic that I value the most.
I love that you said abundance and generosity together, like in the same breath, because abundance and generosity is the first practice of the ally mindset in our book, which is right there. You, me, we. We all need a friend at work.
I need it on myself too. Yes.
So again, right? I know we got together and talked a few weeks ago, and I was like, "Oh, I like this person. She's like right in our wheelhouse, like on our team." That mindset, that sets the stage for everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
You show up with a scarcity mindset, you're in for a different experience.
Oh yeah,
right?
Yeah.
that's it.
And
It's
and
a
I
choice.
yes, it's a choice. And I love what you said. Most of those moments happen when you can't get a payback, when that's not even in the cards, right? It's like you're just doing a thing because it's the right thing to do, or it's the thing that the situation calls for, not out of your own enlightened self-interest, right?
Sure. Like if you ever go to like a Waffle House or somewhere and you leave like a huge tip and you just leave, like you don't even know what their reaction is going to be, but you know that was a
because it's
blessing
Waffle
to them.
House.
Yeah, right. I mean, like they're not working at Waffle House at 10 p.m. because they feel like it.
Yeah.
Right. They're
Most
doing
of
it
my
'cause they need
Waffle
to.
House experiences were more in the 3 a.m. area. So
Yeah.
it's a different crew working the overnights at the Waffle House.
Yeah. Ruby, I'm just reading your comment about getting sucked into comparisons. Do you want to say something about that? I think that's such a great point.
Yeah, I just love what you said about being grounded and gratitude. And if we're not grounded, like we don't have our roots in and aware of what's around us and what we already have, we can compare. And I think when we get into comparison, we can almost make ourselves sick physically, mentally, all of those things, because we're trying to achieve something that actually isn't even meaningful to us, but we don't know what we already have and who we are. And so that just came up for me because that I think about comparison a lot and what that does to us. So
yeah. And it's a hard trap to get out of. I think it's similar to judgment, judging ourselves, judging others. Like it's a very normal human thing for us to do. It's just not helpful. So we have to say, catch yourself, right? When you're like, wait a second, why do I feel so crappy? Like, oh, okay, because I'm looking at somebody's Instagram post and I'm like pining over the whatever I'm seeing, or somebody's fill in the blank, whatever it is that you're comparing to yourself, career, life, house. And then you just think, well, that's the lack of gratitude, right? Because I think if you were really taking a stock in what you have, I mean, for most people in my circles, we have so much opportunity, we have ability, right? We have the ability to have this conversation, to talk about leadership and life and philosophies and that kind of thing. Like that's such a gift that we have that freedom.
Yeah. That I even think of that like when I'm doing I'm working out or something and it's really challenging and it's in my mind, I'm just like, can I be done with this? Is so hard. And then sometimes it'll pop into my head to think, I'm really grateful I have the physical ability to make my body move in this way, right? That even just that, there's so many people who literally can't do this. And then it changes the whole mindset of like, this is a privilege to be able to do this. Yeah,
it really is.
What's so funny about that, Lori, is there's so much choice in a lot of that mindset. Right. I mean, it was funny because I was talking to my ex today and she talking about her parents. And I said, I would ask how your mom's doing, but I know because she's been miserable since she was 40. And she told me a story about one of her coworkers who's in her 30s and is now she's walking with a cane. Right. And she's not got a degenerative disease. Right. It's just, this is the headspace that this person is in and chooses to stay in that space. And I get it as an anxiety and depression person. Like I get it. Sometimes we don't have the ability to get out of those situations on our own, which is why we have therapists and coaches. Right. And, I'm a firm believer in the idea that everybody can use therapy. It should be a thing that you consider regularly, like getting the fancy coffee. It's a thing that you should do on the reg. But the stigma associated with it, right? So sometimes in this choice or lack of choice around being grounded in gratitude or just sort of riding the misery wave, we feel stuck. So as a coach, what is one of your sort of go-to anchor points to help people break that mindset, to get into that, okay, so I am going to come at this with an abundance and generosity mindset. I am going to be grateful and show gratitude. How do you help them break the pattern?
Yeah, it's such a great question. I think two frameworks that I use. One is the area of control, influence, and no control. So just have them list out and start off with no control. What are things you have no control over, like the weather, aging, economy, traffic? And then what are the things that you influence? And those are usually people, like my team, my peers, my children, my family, my neighbors, like anyone who I have proximity to or influence with. I need to take stock and responsibility for the fact that I influence those people. But then the area of control, there's really one main thing in there, and it's them, me. Like I control me, you control you. But what's interesting is there's a long list of things that we control about ourselves, including attitude, but like our perception, how we communicate, our priorities, how we spend our time. Do we exercise? How hydrated are we? Our rest and recovery time, our nutrition, who we hang around with, what kind of goals we set, how we hold ourselves accountable to those goals. There's a laundry list. And so I just think you're going to get a greater ROI for the what I can control list, which interestingly, when we focus there, we are more influential. Right. We can be a greater, more positive, generous influence over the people. Because if we're neglecting the things that we can do something about, then we're blaming everybody else for the condition of our lives and the situations that we're in. So just to take responsibility for the things that really only we are responsible for, like nobody else can set a goal for me. No one else can make me go to bed on time or to hydrate or to put boundaries around toxic people, right? There's things that we are all responsible for. So I start there, but then another place, like another thing that we have control over, and this is the other thing that I wanted to share with your listeners because I just love it so much, is the quality of the questions that we ask ourselves. Because the majority of our thoughts are in the form of a question. So if we really want to improve the quality of our lives, I think the quickest and simplest way to do it is to improve the quality of our questions. And I mean both the questions we're asking ourselves and the questions that we're asking other people. And so I have this like visual that I created that looks like a car, like you're driving a car. It looks like a steering wheel. And there's two roads. And the top of the image says choice because it's a choice, right? And I have to always remind people, you're the driver. Yeah. You're not the passenger. You're not hogtied in the back. You are the driver.
You're not hogtied in the back. That I love so much.
That's what I feel like they're making me. No, you're.
What if you want to be hogtied in the back? Is that a?
I mean, no, I don't
think a bad thing.
Oh no.
Is that wrong?
So yeah. So as you're driving down the road, and it's the road that all of us drive down every day, something happens. And it doesn't matter like how bad it is. It's like, it could be something horrible or something insignificant, like I spilled my coffee. But we're going to go down one of those two roads. And the road that most of us go down is one that I call the road of rumination. And the road of rumination is paved with questions that begin with why. It's like, why do I even drink coffee? Why don't I have a better coffee mug? Why am I so tired and require so much caffeine? Why? And we just feel horrible and we feel like a victim and we just feel drained and like lifeless and anxious. But the choice across the top is like, or we could take a right turn, which is the road of resolution. And the road of resolution is paved with questions that typically begin with what or how. And I say typically because WTF is a what question, but doesn't qualify as a road of resolution kind of question. Or how can I be such an idiot, right? So it's not universally true. However, most what, how questions are like windshield questions, right? They're all about the future. How can I what would it take to, how would this look if, what's the big deal? What am I grateful for happens to be a road of resolution question. And then the road of rumination questions are more rear view mirror questions where we're looking back at things and we're looking for something or someone to blame. And so I think that's a really helpful framework, because every day of my life, I'm taking left-hand turns all the time. So it's not like a forbidden place that we're not allowed to go. We're going to go there because we're human. I think it's a matter of elasticity and like recognizing that you're there, and you're there by how you feel. Like when you're there, you just feel, like what we've been talking about, stressed out, anxious, angry, resentful. And it's like, and if like, that's not my baseline, that's not how I normally am. I don't like being like this. Then it's like, okay, this is when I need to have a better question so I can zap myself back over to the other side. And I do think it's helpful to have a back pocket question, like what am I grateful for is mine. For some people, that's like annoying question. When you're in the grip of things, you're like, oh my gosh, like, what am I going, So maybe you just say, what's a better question? Or what's the big deal?
For this fucking question.
Yeah.
Right.
So before it gets too far in the rear view, I want to go back to the control framework, because Ruby and I use the control circle in a lot of the work that we do. Super simple, right? For those that don't know it, you draw a circle on a cocktail napkin is usually where I draw it. And when you think about all the things that are bugging you about whatever's going on, whatever the situation or decision, for everything that you put outside the circle, you got to put two things inside the circle. Right? So things that I can control. So when you start brainstorming all the things that are pissing you off, or the things that you find yourself gravitating to in your mind, most of those are outside the circle, right? Mm-hmm. So the challenge to double up what goes in the circle, you gotta shift your mindset. But I love your sort of three-pronged approach here, and I know Ruby's going to bring it up in a workshop when we do it. The next time we get a team in a room together, she'll bring this up. So, just walk us through those components again. It was control, no control, and influence.
Yeah. So the outer circle is no control, influence, and then control. And it's funny because like we talked about reconnecting with former clients. I had a former client reach out not too long ago in December and say, I can't even find my inner circle. I can't even find
it's veered off into a ditch somewhere.
Exactly. I took a hard left and I literally in a ditch.
So I love that visual. Like I can picture that, because of the notes that I took down. I was like, control, well, that's pretty much me.
Uh-huh.
Influence, you said, was mostly other people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And no control, I just wrote stuff. It's just all the stuff, right?
All the stuff. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because when you talk about with people, what can you not control? They'll say other people. Mm-hmm. And that's not entirely true. Like strangers, yes, that's in that outer circle. Can't control them. Like somebody cuts you off on the highway. I mean, yeah, you could follow them, right? But that's not a good idea. No,
it's not a good idea.
But you can influence other people, and you do influence other people
all the time.
And I actually think as a leader, you have to take responsibility for the reality that you influence other people. And so in the spirit of generosity, it's like, how am I doing that in a way that's positive and productive, right? How am I influencing others in a way that makes them better? And you kind of know, like, I heard somebody once tell me that there are headlight people and taillight people. Like some people you look forward to them coming, and some people you look forward to them going.
That's funny.
And hey,
so
you may be both of those things to somebody, and that's okay too.
That's okay too.
Yeah. So I wanted to come back to the choice, because there's a very congruent framework that I've used, that I borrowed from a colleague, it was Kelly that kind of showed me this. And it's the choice point where it's based on an interaction, right? The human behavior, right? So there's an interaction where it generates a feeling, right?
Mhm.
And so in that moment, that choice point is feelings are just feelings and they're valid and you should have them, right? And your behavior is your choice. So my feeling is anger. Oh, I can't see that.
Oh, that back. Oh, emotions drive
Emotions
behavior.
drive behavior. Yeah. And so that's and that's the concept with the choice point. Same kind of idea, right? The fork in the road is, and we kind of use the red and green. Feelings are not good or bad, green, good, red, but they just are. But behaviors you can choose. And a red behavior is I become defensive, I become combative, I flee the scene, right? Kind of thing. Whereas a green behavior is I am curious, I ask a question, I grant somebody grace, right? I take a breath and let it go. And so it's that same kind of thing of in an interaction, that choice point of, am I going to take this? Am I going to choose a behavior that takes me in this sort of red direction, which typically doesn't solve the problem or add to the relationship, right? It can hurt the relationship. Whereas if I'm the big picture here is I want to stay in relationship with this person, whether it's my bestie or it's a colleague that I depend on to get my work done. Or the person at the store that I just don't need to get into it with.
I was just going to say the person
you let
at
it
the
go.
store.
Yeah. And so
Absolutely.
I love that, when you talk about it, it's this inside your head, right? Am I going to ruminate and worry and stress and go down that road of why, or am I going to choose to think about something that's, the
There it
yeah,
is.
I love it.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
I realized I could share this.
Well, and I
You
want
see
to
the weather pattern.
I love it.
Yes.
And I want to kind of double down on what Lori just said and this idea, because the way we talk to ourselves, I love this idea of the quality of the questions that we ask ourselves, but even just the way we talk to ourselves. Like I say things to myself that I would never say to another human being.
No one.
Right? I mean,
you wouldn't say that to an enemy.
No, I say things that are so mean to myself.
And I don't think you would think that about another person either.
Oh God, no.
Right.
No.
Being as critical and judgmental.
But I'll look in the mirror.
Unreasonable.
I will make eye contact with myself and say some really aggressive shit. And then it's only been lately since I've been having conversations like this and hanging out with people like you, Shannon, that I've gone, dude, like wow. And like sometimes I'll say it out loud in front of Ruby and she's like, not on my watch, bro.
Right.
Yeah, good for you, Ruby.
But
we all need someone like that.
Yeah.
So this idea, this sort of left turn, right turn, I love it. And I think as a philosophy, it makes a whole lot of sense. But what I wanted to shine the light on and get your thoughts about is I think the left turn, I mean, the weather in that image was really great because I think the left turn is a whole lot rougher than the right turn. Like the right turn isn't always sunshine and rainbows and butterflies. And I get that. But the left turn can get pretty fucking ugly pretty fast.
Yeah.
And if you're a depression person, that's one of the things that starts the spiral. So when you're sort of exposing people to this thought and this idea, like what is your advice on, because you said we all go left all the time. It's not a bad thing, but like, how do you keep people from going hard left, just pulling the wheel and spinning the car?
And that's challenging because they are the driver of the car. So you can't make them take a right. You can't make them want to go there. You have to offer them the choice and the reality that they're driving. And sometimes and I do believe that we all, I don't know, deserve or want a pity party every once in a while. Like sometimes
That's
life
fair.
just sucks.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's
And
fair.
you just need to like let it suck for,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think, have you ever read Tuesdays with Maury?
Oh yeah.
Book from a long time ago. And I just remember with Mitch, he's walking with Maury one day, he's pushing him in the wheelchair, and he's like, Maury, don't you ever get sad or mad? I mean, look at you, you're like in a wheelchair. And he goes, yep, every day for 5 minutes. And then I say, that's enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I feel like that's that. Like we know that sometimes I'm on that road and I'm like, I like my kids just left for college. I was sad and I was crying and I was really sad and I was trying to I caught myself going like, come on, get it together, girl. And I was taking my breaths and I'm like, no, just
Let
sit
yourself be.
and bawl. Like just go and bawl and
Yeah.
be sad
Yeah.
and then just be like, okay.
And then
then I
realize,
actually, yeah.
and then realize that you can turn those bedrooms into a gym and a sewing room or whatever your hobby is, right?
And now I have a library.
And now you have a library.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But
Well,
I think
and-
that's-
Oh, sorry. And because we talk about this, Lori and I talk about this all the time. This is what you want for your children. You
Yes.
don't want them
Oh, it's
to be
all
living in the
good.
basement.
It's all good. On
Right.
every level, it's good.
Yes,
It's
yes.
just
But-
sad.
But I empathize with you because my kids are 23 and almost 21. And then with Lori's, we have 17 and 15, almost 18 and 15. And she is now experiencing the things that I went through a few years ago, the last everything.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then you realize, you realize that when you had babies, you thought, oh, this is forever and my life is forever changed. And turns out that's not true at all. It's changed for literally 5 minutes is what it feels like, because for all of those last, there was all of the firsts that went with them that were not all awesome either.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Even though
The
we
first time
tend
you found a
to,
vape pen in their room, kind of thing.
oh, I busted my daughter with a bag of weed. So yeah, that was fun.
There it is.
And
Yeah.
accoutrement. So, but we, just as much as our negative self-talk can be so aggressive, the way we can idealize the past
Mhm.
is also interesting to me in how it impacts our current mindset, right?
Mhm.
Because like people talk about the good old days, and whenever somebody says that phrase, it just breaks a synapse in my brain. I'm like, when were the good old days? The 50s, when women couldn't have credit cards by themselves, really? Or was it the Old West days? I know I'm growing this big Old West mustache I got going on right now.
Yeah.
Where you settled your poker debt in the street with a handgun. Those are the good old days. Or the dark ages when the lifespan was 35 years old, expectancy. There are no good old days. These are the good old days. And there's a restaurant somewhere that we've all been in, except for you, Shannon.
Up in Evergreen. Yeah.
Yeah. And the sign says, these are the good old days.
It's so true.
So
Yeah.
true.
So
Right.
that's gratitude.
Yes.
That is gratitude, right?
Yes.
That's like own in this moment right
Being
now.
in your life.
This is
Yeah.
all we need. Yeah.
Well, and it's the thing about letting yourself have the feeling or the breakdown of the pity party or whatever, because I would always do the thing of, I shouldn't feel so bad about what's going on in my life because other people have it so much worse. Right. And I was always like, shut up, Lori, everybody, other people suffer more. And, and Eric used to say, you're entitled to feel bad about the things that feel bad in your life. It's not a comparison. It's not a competition. It's your feelings are just as valid as everyone else's. And you get to feel them. Right.
Yeah.
And
you do feel them. Yeah.
Yes. And let yourself feel those, right? They're not, we judge our feelings. But I think it's only becomes a problem when it drives your behavior in a way that doesn't serve you or hurts other people, right?
Right.
But I used to tell my kids when they were little and they were having a meltdown or something, and I would say, I can see that you're really upset and you're super mad about this, and you're entitled to feel those things, and that doesn't mean that you get to speak mean to me. Right. Those are separate things. You can feel all the things that you want to feel. And maybe it would be better for you to feel those in your room for a little while. until you can, speak to me more kindly or something, that kind of idea. Because those are the choices that we have. Yeah.
Totally. And I think the earlier the better to teach them that.
Yeah. Because
So-
repressing feelings or trying to fit yourself into, I'm not going to be an angry person, or I'm not going to cry when I feel sad, that just squashes shit down in a way that does not serve you.
Not healthy. It
And
pops up in
ekes
other
out
places.
anyway.
Yes.
Right. And just pops out another.
Yeah.
When you
Definitely.
squish it down, it comes out other cracks,
Mhm.
and it comes out when you're not expecting it, and in ways that you can't plan for. It's a terrible idea. I love this conversation. I feel like we should be sitting in a bar. I think we'd be having the same conversation.
Yeah. No doubt.
So we've gotten a couple of frameworks, but I want to go back to the journal, because this is the way you pitch it. It's a 1 line a day, 5-year journal. So it's a low commitment, but a long time horizon. And that's not typical. Oh, look, Lori's got hers right there.
Yeah, Lori. I love it. I was just looking up what January 8th is. So like here you can see this is a fresh one.
Yeah.
So see how it has like the 20, and then you would put 25 today. And then you would just write the thing you're grateful for today. And then what's so cool is when you go back to January 8th next year, like I'll write tonight in mine about being with y'all on this podcast. And like next year, I'm going to be texting Lori like, hey, it was last year that we did the podcast together.
So are there prompts for each day?
Well, there's like a quote, and a lot of the quotes, like yesterday was my niece's birthday. So it's her, she wrote that quote.
Okay.
Caitlin Bates.
Can you read that for us? So people that aren't watching.
Yeah. Caitlin Bates says, gratitude has a funny way of multiplying joy. Even when our situation, belongings, or relationships stay the same, it's one of those things that costs nothing but adds everything.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
She's going to get the correct answer bell for that.
And then today's is Shauna Nietzsche, and it says, when life is sweet, say thank you and celebrate. When life is bitter, say thank you and grow. Yeah. So every day, and some days it is a prompt, like I am grateful for, or one of them. Oh, here's one. When I reflect on my childhood, I'm most grateful for ... But I often ignore those prompts, and I just write the thing I'm grateful for. Yeah, and I'm notorious. Like just last night, I sent a note to, again, this is thematic for the bartender. We had a group during COVID called Cosmos and Cousins, and we would do all kinds of Zoom meetings. And so in 2021, Cosmos and Cousins met, and we did facials together. So last night I was texting the Cosmos and Cousins. What?
In real space? Like you?
No, like all on Zoom.
Oh, got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
my sister found this woman, and that, she'd send us all these packages with all the stuff, and then she'd be like, okay, now rub this in circles, and then do this and do this. It was so funny. We all had masks on. We looked horrible. It was great.
I assume there's video of this Zoom conversation.
I think I did take a screenshot of it, but I will never share it with anyone.
Yeah. But I love how it does prompt that ability to connect with somebody, right? And remind yourself of a happy thing that happened, and tell them this is such a fond memory. Thank you for being part of it, right?
Right.
That's like
both of my kids,
out of nowhere gift to someone.
It is. And both of my kids transferred schools, and in their first colleges, they're both really miserable and were struggling with mental health and a lot of other challenges. And like a year later, they're in a new school, they have new friends, they're super happy. And I said, it was a year ago today that you came home and said, I can't do this anymore. Right. And I think about how much growth happened in 1 year. Yeah. So if it wasn't for grounded in gratitude, I would not have had that level of accuracy on how, what happened on that day.
I can't remember why I went to the refrigerator. So
yeah.
So true.
So Shannon, great stuff, right? I love the idea of the 5-year time horizon, the sort of one line, and the ability to connect the dots year over year. That's awesome. And we talked about the left-right framework from 5-Degree Principle. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yep.
Well, I could talk to you all day, and I want to be mindful of time, but I want to know about what is V.I.B.E. Like, what's that all about? And I want you to talk a little bit about the podcast too. So.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. All right. So there was something from V.I.B.E. that I wanted to bring up because it's relevant to our conversation. So V.I.B.E., as you said, is an acronym. So the V are your values, your core values. I are your interests, things that you do for fun that you might not ever get paid to do. You just love to do them. They bring you joy, which, by the way, people struggle with that segment the most because I think we've backburnered them so far that people forgot what they find interesting. B are the beliefs that you have about yourself. So in the B chapter, you are asked to create I am statements. And something that we talked about in this conversation is that you can claim the things that you know you already are, and there's some rules, like they have to be positive, present tense. They have to be that you have to use accurate language, like not I am a good mom, like a good mom, I don't know, feeds her children. Like, what kind of mom are you? I'm an amazing mom. I'm an engaging mom. I'm a empathetic mom, whatever. What kind of parent or whatever role we're talking about here. So it has to, use, I would say, good adjectives.
Mm-hmm.
And then you need to do the inverse of the things that you say you're not. So if you say I'm really impatient, so you are asked to write I am patient. And some people say, well, that's not being honest. And I was like, yeah, but telling yourself that you're impatient and then just giving yourself the out every time you get frustrated is also not accurate, right?
And haven't you heard of fake it till you make it? Come on, people.
Yeah, you're right. So it's, I think, a very hard exercise to do because you have to fight with that inner voice that's telling you, no, you're not. You're not inspirational. You're not intelligent. You're not strategic. And it's like, but I really want to be, like, the leader that I want to be is strategic and creative and patient and empathetic and inspirational and whatever else it is that you want to be. So there's a long list of values, and sometimes people pick from that list. So the I am statements, and that's just a really interesting thing, that I am, fill in the blank. Whatever we put in there it's so powerful. And like you said earlier, Eric, about how you talk to yourself and how I talk to myself, like those are I am statements too.
Right.
Like, I am an idiot. I am a moron. I am so, like, how could I?
Yeah.
And you just had to say, like, hold on, sister. Like, you're also human, right?
Yeah.
So you didn't notice that thing needed to be done. Okay. Like, let it go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what's the E?
Oh, and then the E is energy management. So E is like the 4 pillars of energy. That's from the Human Performance Institute. So that's not my thought leadership, but they talk about physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual energy. Yeah. And just how do you, and it's the energy cycle of how energy out, which is stress, like when I'm exhibiting energy in those 4 areas. And then there's energy in, which is recovery. And that's the part that most of us skip, or we just say, oh, I'm going to go to Starbucks and just neglect to have to do that recovery and hope I could just keep out,
Yeah.
So that chapter is about, what does charge my battery and how can I be mindful of doing that throughout the day, every day.
I love it. So V.I.B.E. is a workwork. It's an experience.
Exactly. Because it was designed as a team development, framework. And then someone's like, you should make this a book. And then once I did the 5-Degree Principle, I was like, okay, now I know how to create a book. And so we created V.I.B.E. with just the content that we've been using with team development. And I like it because, similar to 5-Degree Principle, like, I won't get the opportunity to meet everyone that I would love to meet, but anyone could access the book and get the tools and resources there. And that makes me feel good.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Good. Ruby had to leave early, but she sent her gratitude in the chat.
She said she's going to be giving this gratitude journal as gifts this year.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah.
I loved connecting with her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
we're
ready
gonna
to
we're gonna buy some. I'm gonna get one.
Yes.
So
And then you said about the
the
podcast.
show, yeah.
I just wanted to take that generosity further. And I thought, this is before the pandemic. And I thought this would be really cool to, like, I was creating a keynote on generous leader. And then I thought this would be really neat to have a podcast, because then I could get more like stories and examples
Yeah.
from guests. And then I remember saying to the producer, I was like, okay, so if I have 5 episodes and these 5 people say the same 5 things, then I guess it just isn't that interesting. And I'm maybe at a dead end. But I'm over 200 something episodes.
Turns
and
out that wasn't true.
That wasn't true.
Yeah.
So it's just a perpetual interesting topic, because and just like every human being is different, everyone's experience of generosity is different. And yeah, are there themes? Yes, of course there are themes, like mentoring and feedback and listening and
Sure.
giving people the benefit of the doubt and forgiveness, right? There are themes, but they're all different, and how someone experiences them or how they chose to interpret something as an act of generosity. So it's been like so fulfilling, such an act of, it's just like this a service project for myself, frankly.
I love
An
that.
act
I
of
love
love.
that. And that's, Eric and I talk about that too. Like, I mean, we don't do this for money or for,
Yeah,
No,
neither.
it costs money.
Me too.
any of those things, right? It's just we get so much out of it, and the community that we've built around it. It feels good to put it out into the world and have these conversations. So yeah, I love that.
It's like we're big tipping at Waffle House at 3 a.m.
That's us. We're big tipping.
I love it.
That's great.
Well,
That's
Shannon, tell us, where do we go find out more about you, your litany of books and assessments, and learn more about you in general?
Oh, thank you so much. Well, if you go to shannoncassidy.com, it takes you to bridgebetween.com, which is, I think, more characters and more complicated. So you could just go shannoncassidy.com and everything's there. There's 2 free assessments. All the podcasts are there.
All the
There's
books.
some really good resources. Yes, there's a link to the books. So it's all right there.
Awesome.
Yes.
This has been so great. Her name is Shannon Cassidy. I would say the name of her books, but there's a lot of them. You can go find them at shannoncassidy.com. Let's get into our end of show ritual. Let's do our funny things, good feel story, goofy cocktail, and then it's dinner time, because this guy put a pork loin in the crock pot this morning and the house smells amazing. So
it does.
It's making me hungry. All right. Today's funny things, silly things from the internet that made Eric laugh. Funny thing number 1, I got Botox and I asked the doctor, how many years younger will this make me look? And he was like, 0. You'll just look like all the other girls your age who have also gotten Botox. Because that's true. This one is for all the people that did the DNA testing to find out where they come from. This has happened. Blackstone, a PE firm, is acquiring Ancestry.com for $4.7 billion, giving that investment firm total ownership of all the DNA from every person who's ever used the service. The quote here is Yoda, and it says, "Begun, the Clone Wars have."
Yeah, that's creepy.
Super creepy. This is why I never did that. I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen with my DNA information. This one was for Ruby. My 3-year-old is the only girl at her small daycare. I was thrilled when she started talking about her new friend Piper and how much they love to play every day for months. Piper this, Piper that. Finally, I asked the daycare lady about maybe scheduling a play date. Piper's a cat. This one in the animal lane made me laugh. So I found a door in a tree trunk and it was full of a pile of money and a single frog. And there's a picture of the door, the little pile of coins, and the frog. And the comment on this tweet was, "So you broke into his house?" This is from the Why We Can't Have Nice Things department, and this is what AI is doing now. Add another one to the list of hilarious examples of why generative AI doesn't produce correct answers, just statistically likely ones. Customers asked for how-to videos, which the company doesn't have, and the AI chatbot decided that 1 million internet users linking to this video after similar requests couldn't be wrong. The AI is rickrolling their customers. When they asked for a how-to video, the AI said, oh, well, everybody else sends this video in response to how-to videos, and it's rickrolling. The comments here are, well, the AI just knows the rules and how to play them. And then the response is, AI, you know the rules. And so do I. And my favorite funny thing from today is the one I foreshadowed at the beginning. I'm not saying I need it, but I would feel better if I had it. It's a little ring box that says, just for you. And when you open it up on a spring, pops up a middle finger. I'm not saying I need it, but I would feel better if I had it.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
Today's good feel story. I don't know. Steve Hartman makes me cry every week. This week is no exception. Gets me every week.
That's so great.
Every week. I love those stories. All right. Today's semi-quarantine cocktail is phone calls. This is a riff on the London calling cocktail. You're going to need 1 ounce and 1/3 of gin. Apparently Gen Z hates phone calls, like hates them. It causes physical symptoms, nausea, shortness of breath, dizziness. You're going to need a little over 1/2 ounce of dry sherry. And just so you know, Nottingham College in the UK is offering a class on phone calls. Yeah. A little bit of lemon juice. You start off in this class by calling businesses to see what time they open or close.
Oh my
Just
God.
to sort of break it down. A little bit of simple syrup. It's literally called telephonophobia.
Oh my gosh.
2 drops of grapefruit bitters. You got this, boo. It's just another human. They aren't going to hurt you. They can't do anything to you. They can't even post shit about you. It's even easier than Instagram because there's no record of it. There's no lingering image of the issue at hand. You just talk to a person and then move on with your life. Telephonophobia. Well, this episode was all about gratitude, and I'm grateful for all of you. I'm grateful for everybody who comes here on the Wednesday, who listens from afar. I'm grateful for Shannon Cassidy and for my partner in crime, Lori. So thank you for being here and continuing to show up every Wednesday. Let's go have some dinner, folks.
Yeah. Thanks, Shannon.
Yes, thank you. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you so much for joining us today. If you had a good time and learned a thing or two at today's happy hour, please share it with your friends. If you want to join our tribe, head on over to skyeteam.cloud/TCB or email us at info@skyeteam.com. That's SKYE team.com. Thanks again, and remember, you've always got friends at the Corporate Bartender.